today on Rappler. President Marcos says he will not grant the U.S. access to more military bases. President Marcos says he hasn't gotten a straight answer from former government officials on Rodrigo Duterte's secret deal with China. Transport groups PISTON and Manibela hold another transport strike against PUV consolidation. President Marcos defends Vice President Sara Duterte's silence on China's aggression in the West Philippine Sea. Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong will hand over power to his successor Lawrence Wong on May 15. U.S. President Joe Biden says the U.S. will not participate in Israel's counteroffensive against Iran. And Taeyong from K-pop boy group NCT 127 begins his military service. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. says his government has no plans to grant the United States access to more military bases. This after nearly doubling the number last year from 5 to 9 under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. Last year, Washington and Manila discussed further expanding the number of bases U.S. forces could access under EDCA, which was when Beijing accused Manila of stoking the fire as the new sites are close to potential flashpoints. U.S. President Joe Biden, who hosted Marcos and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in Washington in a first-of-its-kind three-way summit, asked Congress for a further $128 million for infrastructure projects at the EDCA sites. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. expresses frustration over conflicting information regarding the secret deal struck between his predecessor Rodrigo Duterte and China on the West Philippine Sea years ago. Marcos says he has 3 questions, but the last 2 remain unanswered. Is there really a secret agreement? What was the secret agreement about, and why was it kept a secret?
These are very simple questions, but I hear one thing and another thing. Maraming palusot. I haven't gotten a straight answer out of anyone.
Meantime, Marcos says the Philippines will not allow the International Criminal Court to arrest Duterte over his bloody drug war, saying the country won't recognize the warrant the ICC will send. The country withdrew from the body in 2019 during the Duterte administration. Transportation groups PISTON and Manibela hold another transportation strike on Monday, April 15. This ahead of the April 30 deadline for individual jeepneys to consolidate. The 2 groups participate in another Tigil Pasada or transport strike after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. confirmed that the April 30 jeepney consolidation deadline is final. The Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program requires jeepney operators to give up their individual franchises and join a cooperative or corporation, or else they will no longer be able to ply their routes. Operators worry about the high cost of upgrading their fleets, with modern units costing an average of 2.48 million pesos each. A study shows the modernization scheme could also affect commuters, as minimum jeepney fares could rise to 40 pesos. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. defends Vice President Sara Duterte from criticism over her silence on China's aggression in the West Philippine Sea. Marcos says the issue is not within the scope of Duterte's job as Vice President and Education Secretary. Duterte's silence on China amid the Marcos administration's strong condemnation of Chinese actions in the West Philippine Sea has further underscored the split of the Uniteam, the 2022 election coalition that led the Marcos-Duterte tandem to victory. Marcos says if the Vice President had any serious concerns about their approach to the West Philippine Sea issue, she would have told him directly. On April 8, Duterte was asked about the country's sea dispute with China, but she says she has no comment, adding the statement of her brother Davao Representative Paulo Duterte about the issue was comprehensive. Longtime Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong announces he will hand over power to his successor Lawrence Wong on May 15. This ahead of an election that must be held next year. Wong has been Prime Minister in waiting since April 2022 after the previous anointed successor stepped aside unexpectedly. In a statement, Lee, 72, calls the leadership transition a significant moment. Lee has been Prime Minister since 2004 and is the eldest son of Singapore's founding father, Lee Kuan Yew. Wong says he accepts the responsibility and pledges to give it his all. Wong, 51, earned praise as co-head of the government's COVID-19 task force during the pandemic. He also served as Lee's secretary from 2005 to 2008. Wong became finance minister in 2021 and deputy prime minister in 2022. United States President Joe Biden warns Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu the U.S. will not take part in a counteroffensive against Iran. This after Iran launched a swarm of explosive drones and fired missiles at Israel on Saturday, April 13, in its first ever direct attack on Israel. Iran earlier warned Israel and the US of a much larger response if there is any retaliation for its attack. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says while the U.S. does not seek escalation, it will continue to take all necessary action to defend Israel and U.S. personnel. Iran's retaliation comes after a suspected Israeli strike on its embassy compound in Syria on April 1, which killed top Iranian Revolutionary Guard commanders. Taeyong of K-pop boy group NCT 127 begins his mandatory military enlistment on Monday, April 15. He is the first member of NCT to enlist in the military. SM Entertainment confirmed in March that the rapper would be enlisting in the South Korean Navy as an active duty soldier. In an Instagram post, Taeyong shares photos of fellow NCT members sending him off, saying he will return safely. He also posts a photo of him heading to the enlistment venue along with a group photo of NCT 127. Taeyong also debuted his newly shaven head in a series of photos on Sunday. South Korea requires all able-bodied Korean men to serve in the military for at least 18 months. And that's today's wrap. I'm Nina Liu. Thank you for watching. Click the link below for the full story. Follow us on Rappler's YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok.